Hey YouTube, welcome back to the channel. Today, I'll be sharing this Cartier Santos ADLC with you all. I'm going to talk about its physical attributes, tiny details that watch sites and publications tend to gloss over, and do a quick unboxing to show what comes with it. Now, I use quotes with unboxing here since I've actually had this for around a year now. I just wanted to make this video as informative as possible for everyone and turn it into the resource that I wish I had when I first considered buying this watch. That said, I'll also talk about my first year ownership experience and how things have held up towards the end of this video. Based on the Santos de Cartier line launched in 2018, this ADLC variant was released by Cartier just 2 years later, in 2020. I was immediately interested when I learned about it, but didn't really have free funds to buy one back then. The pandemic also prevented me from actually going somewhere and having the opportunity to buy the Santos ADLC. Fast forward to 2022 when my wife and I, fresh from our wedding, finally got to travel again. We had this long trip that started in New York, continued down to New Orleans, west to San Jose, and a few nights in Yosemite, then San Francisco before finishing with a beautiful Pacific Coast Highway drive south to Los Angeles. I will admit to having visited more than one Cartier store before the PCH drive, but it wasn't until we got to Santa Barbara that I finally came face to face with this Santos ADLC. The dealer gave me a great price along with some freebies for my wife, and the rest was history. I'm going to say ADLC a lot of times in this video, so I might as well talk about it early on. ADLC stands for Amorphous Diamond-like Carbon. It's a coating that's applied to pre-finished materials, in this case stainless steel, at around 200 degrees Celsius, and is supposed to provide superior wear resistance over materials that are left otherwise untreated. I'll talk about how it has held up later in the ownership experience part of this video. Before anything else, I want to show you guys the dimensions on this watch. Someone commented in a past video that Cartier doesn't really disclose full case dimensions anymore, so hopefully this helps. The footprint on this is almost identical to the large Santos de Cartiers, by the way. I say almost because there seem to be extremely minor differences between the two, which I'll show you guys later. So the case width is around 38 millimeters, and with the crown guard, the figure increases to around 40 millimeters. The crown itself is around 4 millimeters long, and the full width of the watch with the crown is around 42 millimeters. Onto the lengths. Excluding lugs, the Santos ADLC is around 37 millimeters long. Including them, it's 47 millimeters long lug to lug. Viewing the side here, the center section is just a little over 9 millimeters thick, with the bezel accounting for around 2 millimeters of that. With all those dimensions out of the way, let's talk about the watch itself. Cartier has made a lot of changes to the Santos design language over the last few decades, and the most significant departure from tradition for the Santos de Cartier was the way they made the bezel flow to the top and bottom edges of the case instead of keeping to the traditional square. Given the rather short lug-to-lug dimensions, the bezel flow helps the watch look ever so slightly longer than it is wide. Viewing the non-ADLC Santos de Cartier, you'll notice that the bezel is polished and full of scratches. I'll probably talk about that in another video. Anyway, this stands in contrast with the Santos ADLCs, which has vertical brushing instead of a nice, smooth pre-coat polish. On one hand, it enhances the illusion of length that the flowing bezel introduced. On the other, it helps subdue the overall look of the watch and make it wear a little smaller than the non-ADLC Santos de Cartier. In contrast to the brushed finish on the bezel face, its sides are polished. You don't really notice it unless you closely examine the watch, but it's a nice little detail for when you actually do. Moving on to the rest of the case, the face and sides of it are brushed lengthwise as well, while the chamfers are polished smooth. Instead of a traditional blue spinel cabochon, the ADLC crown gets a black one instead, further adding to the stealthy look of this timepiece. Let's circle back to the case chamfers here for a moment. Another one of Cartier's departures from tradition was their integration of the crown guards with the chamfers. On prior Santos models, the crown guards kind of just stick out from the side of the case. The latest ones have them nicely flowing off of the case chamfers. This change reduces the visual weight of the crown guards when viewing the Santos de Cartier head-on, though this is something more obvious on the standard cased pieces than on the Santos ADLC. If you're interested in the different little changes that Cartier did to the Santos line over the years, I made a video about the Cartier Santos's design evolution a few weeks ago. I'll have a link up in the card and in the description box below, so please do check it out once you're done with this video. Before we move on to the rest of the watch, I want to share two things here. First, the ADLC treatment softens the edges and corners on the watch. On the stainless steel Santos de Cartier, the transitions between polished and brushed finishes are very sharp and prominent. You can even feel these transitions when you pinch the watch case like I'm doing here, and the sharpness is apparent even on the 45-degree angles that the chamfers share with the face and sides of the watch case. You don't get the same visual and tactile feedback with the Santos ADLC. Second, while the two Santos de Cartiers are officially listed as large models, the proportions of their cases vary ever so slightly as to make this shipping protector for the ADLC piece not fit as well over the stainless steel one. I can't tell you exactly how they vary, but the difference is there. Fortunately, this minor variance between case dimensions did not affect the quick-switch strap-changing system that was first launched in the 2018 Santos de Cartier. The Santos ADLC comes with this black rubber strap shown here, and another flat black alligator strap which I'll show you guys later. It's also compatible with the straps for all the large Santos de Cartiers that came before it. I can even install the stainless steel bracelet on it trouble-free. Note that the deployants changed sometime in late 2019 or early 2020 though. Older Santos de Cartiers used to have this single-fold friction lock deployant that made folding both strap ends underneath it necessary. Newer ones, including this ADLC piece, now come with this push-button single-fold deployant that's much more comfortable to wear. One end has a fixed length and is installed with a quick-release spring bar, while the other has holes for the clasp to slot into. The excess tucks neatly underneath for a clean look. In line with tradition, the Santos ADLC gets Roman numerals on the dial, down to the watchmaker's 4. All of them are luminous this time around, which provides a nice utilitarian twist to the classic. The date window still stays at the 6 o'clock position but now has white print on a black background to better match the dial. The chemin de fer, or railway track minute scale, stays where it's supposed to be and is also done in white on black. A lot of similarities with prior Santos de Cartiers and yet a lot of differences. While most of the others get flat dials, the Santos ADLC sports a multi-layered one that steps down inside the railway track minute scale, while the outer border housing the Roman numerals is flat black. The inner square has vertical brushing that matches the bezel and the rest of the watch case. It isn't anything drastic. The inner part of the dial steps down just enough to convey a sense of depth on close examination. Another departure from the norm is Cartier's use of mismatched hands on the Santos ADLC. Look closely and you'll notice that the second hand is the only exposed polished component on this entire thing save for the deployant. In contrast, the loomed hour and minute hands are both given the ADLC treatment. The aesthetic sort of works, sure, but I suspect that the second hand was too thin to be reliably done in ADLC. Nonetheless, the exposed stainless steel gives better visibility to the second hand, given the lack of loom. Finally, we get to the movement. All the large and medium Santos de Cartiers run on Cartier's 1847 MC entry-level movement. This was developed by Cartier to slowly phase out their 049 caliber, which was based on the ETA 2892-A2. Gauging by reactions online, a lot of folks seem to be disappointed by the dismal 40-hour power reserve on the 1847 MC. Understandable, since entry-level watches such as a Hamilton Khaki Field now come with 80-hour power reserves courtesy of their H10 calibers. That's double the power reserve for a mere fraction of the price. I have opened this timepiece up. I'll talk about that later as well. And the 1847 MC isn't the most finely decorated movement out there. So, what are its merits? I mentioned earlier that this was developed by Cartier to be the replacement for the ETA-based 049 caliber. I have a Santos Galbi Extra Large with the 049 inside it, and even after a full service, the automatic winding on that would often be inadequate for my shamefully sedentary office lifestyle after a few days. I never encountered this problem with both of my Santos de Cartiers. The winding efficiency of the 1847 MC is just so much better than the 049s. Another feature that I don't really understand why Cartier doesn't talk about in press releases is the above average magnetic resistance, 1200 Gauss to be specific. This is courtesy of a paramagnetic ring around the movement and not the movement per se, but the figure is higher than that of the first Rolex Milgausses and definitely worth talking about. The 1847 isn't the most elaborate or feature-packed of movements, but it's more than adequate for a daily workhorse that you don't baby around. I have monitored its rate consistency over the course of months, and both the shock and magnetic resistance of the movement serve it well. So as promised, here's a quick unboxing just for you all to see what comes with the watch. For fans of the brand, the Cartier outer and inner box should look familiar. Simple gold branding on their signature red. Open the outer box by taking its cover off. The front side of its lower shell folds down for easy access to the inner box. Let's take the inner box out first. That envelope on the bottom is for the receipt from the dealer, by the way. I won't go over it with you guys since it isn't really something that's consistent across purchases. So here's the inner box. There's a tiny gold button on the front side of the inner box that unlocks the clamshell cover. Press that and the box opens on its own. You're then greeted by gold branding inside the lid and black suede material all around. This is so much better than the cream-colored faux leather material that Cartier used to use inside their inner boxes. That material tends to get flaky and icky over time. Lift the two fabric tabs on both sides of the top shelf to take it off. Inside, you get a divided bottom layer. The upper right corner houses the warranty card and the sleeve, which contains a simple instruction booklet and a multilingual invitation to join the Cartier Care program. Doing so and registering your timepiece online extends the warranty to 8 years, by the way, which is nice. Let's put all of these back to where they belong. The bottom half is where they put the other set of straps. This is the flat black alligator strap that I mentioned earlier. I haven't opened it yet since I already bought a slightly rounded black alligator quick switch strap a few years ago and wanted to wear that out first. Remember that all Santos de Cartiers, regardless of color or finish, should come with at least 2 strap sets if they don't come with a bracelet, and just 1 set if they do. This is something to keep in mind when you're buying pre-owned. Finally, we have this metal tool right here, enclosed in a clear plastic sleeve. I never really understood what it's for, so if anyone has ideas, please do share them in the comments below. A year in with the Cartier Santos de Cartier ADLC. So how did it go? When I got the watch, it was running around 2 or 3 seconds slow each day. While these numbers were well within chronometer specs, I always prefer my watches to run fast than a little slow. Somewhat similar to Nomas's philosophy on timekeeping. I wasted no time putting the watch on the time grapher and regulating it when we finally came home from our trip, and it has reliably gained an average of 2 seconds a day since then. Other than the obvious doorknob or seatbelt, I don't really baby my watches at all. With this in mind, I can say that the shock and magnetic resistance of the 1847 MC movement definitely helped with consistent timekeeping. A swan neck regulator would have sweetened the deal and made the movements regulator pretty much impossible to knock out of position. But hey, so far so good. Now, how about the ADLC finish? Like I said at the start of this video, ADLC stands for Amorphous Diamond-like Carbon. So how diamond-like was it? I think there's no better way to explain this than to show you guys the same two watches you've been seeing throughout this video. Both the blue and ADLC Santos de Cartier get the same treatment from me. I'd even say that I'm less careful with the ADLC one than the blue one, since I know in the back of my mind that it's coated with something that's supposed to make its finish more durable. After a year of use, the watch still looks new, whereas the blue Santos de Cartier already had about a third of the scratches you see here after its first year. For the most part, the ADLC treatment did its job. It's not all perfect though. The ADLC layer seems to be thinner on some areas, and you'll notice that the coating on the bezel corner right here has worn off a little after taking some hits. Still, it isn't really obvious most of the time and only catches your attention when light hits it at specific angles. As for the rest of the aesthetics, the stealthy look that the Santos ADLC exudes doesn't really lend itself well to formal pairings. I mean, if I wanted to, I could wear it with a suit, but there are better matches out there. Anything more casual than that, however, the watch is able to cover, especially with the versatility that the quick switch system affords it. I can dress it down with a gray suede strap, make it look sharp with some black gaiter, and cover everything in between with the others. So there you have it. Everything I ever wanted to know about the Santos de Cartier ADLC when I first considered adding it to my collection, condensed in video form for all of you to enjoy. I hope you found this video useful, and if you want to see more of these, please feel free to hit like and subscribe to my channel. Like I always say, I promise not to spam your feed with clickbaity thumbnails and the like. Thank you for staying until the end, and I'll see you next time.